What is up, my dude and dudettes, and welcome back to TellerTube. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the subreddit r/Prorevenge. If you're new to my channel, be sure to subscribe so you can stay up to date with my latest videos. With that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Woman makes a false harassment claim and nearly gets me fired. I get her fired 2 weeks later. Oi, here we go. So I was working in HQ for a large and well-known company, cubicle sorta gig. I had been working there 3 years and she had been there about 12. She's known to have a bit of an attitude and was pretty much next in line to fill a very high position under the CEO. She's always not liked many of the office workers. Pretty much all of the men and one woman she would constantly make cry. I one day ended up brushing past her in a hurry to hand something off to my supervisor which he needed ASAP. Both of my hands quite obviously occupied holding something at my chest level. She ended up filing a harassment claim saying I grabbed her butt. After 2 weeks of hellish unpleasantness, I ended up getting my supervisor to pull the cam footage as they were pretty much about to term me, which saved my butt. Well, I'm friends with a guy she likes to talk to, even though she doesn't like her much. I ended up giving him my recorder pen a few weeks later and got him to try and egg her into talking about trying to get me fired. He managed to get her to admit to that and 3 other instances where she did get men fired for false harassment claims. I ended up getting the recording back, made a few copies, and ended up handing them off to HR, each of the other 3 men in question via email, my boss and his boss, her husband anonymously, and everybody on the board. I basically forced the company into a situation where their star player couldn't stay. Because A, 2 of the 3 men are currently looking to sue, B, I was getting ready to as well, and C, it was completely indisputable. I lost her job and career, any chance at using that place as a reference, and probably damaged her marriage. She's not getting a severance or any of her PTO paid to her. That is actually savage. OP literally planted a bug to get her fired. My new coworker tried to make me look bad in front of management. Ended up embarrassing her with a little prodding. Okay, so the cast. Owner, Carly, antagonist, Linda, manager, Ashley, hosts, Carol and Jen. I recently got a new serving job at a fine dining wine bar with fresh seafood, a gourmet cheese room, sushi bar, and scratch kitchen. It's just a part-time gig to get myself more experience. As in my other job, I serve very fast, casual American fare with a lot of tables, but with very low daily tip potential. I work each job every other day and then have Sundays off. Keeps my days from feeling repetitive. Only working there 2 days a week and I've worked there 7 nights. Linda has also been here for 2.5 weeks, but she works here 4 or 5 days a week. I've known for a while Linda doesn't like me very much. One of the last times I worked with Linda, she was on the bartending shift and hadn't been getting out my drinks. Had a table wait 15 minutes for a glass of wine, but she wouldn't allow me behind the bar. Then started to loudly argue with me about whether or not I sent them in. When I found the ticket for my drink punched as a completed order, she loudly chastised me for being unprofessional in front of the customers and embarrassing myself at the workplace. I very sternly said something along the lines of, "Ain't that the pot calling the kettle back?" and just kinda walked away. At the end of the night, I made $115. I had to tip out dish, host, and bar. I decided $5 a piece was fair enough considering my total and left. Keep in mind, this is a small gourmet restaurant. On nights we aren't busy, servers do our own dishes and bar, and don't do tip outs. If it's slow, hosts and dish go home early without tips. The next shift I had, Linda wasn't there, but Jen was. Jen went on to tell me that Linda told her directly that she didn't think Jen deserved tips for her job, and that it was ridiculous because that money should have been going to the bar. Jen told me, without prompting, that she heard how Linda talked to me the last time we worked together, and that she really didn't think that was acceptable, but didn't want to add a flame to the fire by saying something. I come into work Thursday and we are clearly overstaffed. I was the last one on rotation, got there at 4 p.m, and by 7, I'd taken 1 to-go order. The couple was extremely nice and thankful though, repeatedly said how helpful and thoughtful I was at explaining the menu. Tipped me $6 on 1 sushi entree and a bottle of homemade salad dressing. Promised they'd come back soon and request me as their server even. Good people. After that, I grabbed a staff drink and said later. Well, today, Saturday, Linda was again at the bar. Pretty much as soon as I came in, Jen found a moment to pull me aside and tell me that while I was at my other job Friday, Linda made a complaint about Jen and I. The owner, Carly, had already pulled Jen aside to talk to her about it, and Jen heard my name wrapped up in it, so wanted to give me a heads up. Jen told me that she thinks Linda is an absolute bully and that is really upsetting her. Carly asks to speak to me for a moment in her office, but suddenly a customer calls and asks to speak to the owner. Guess who it was? It was the nice to go order people, who just decided to call 2 days later to, by the owner's words, rant and rave about your service. I couldn't believe my luck. Carly shook my hand and told me I did a really good job, and never talked to me about Linda's complaints. I immediately realized that knowing about Linda's complaints, but having management not know that I know, was powerful information that I could use to my advantage if needed. My shift goes on and Linda is super irate all evening. I went out of my way to sell full bottles of wine as much as I could, so that I wouldn't have to worry about her making my drinks, and got quite a few glasses of my own wine while she was serving tables. At one point, I accidentally rang in a Pinot Noir, even though it was an 86th, and she flipped out. Even the owner's husband was very lightly telling her it wasn't a big deal, and was picking out an inexpensive Pinot from the wine room. She kept going on, and I finally looked at her and just said, "I'm really gonna need you to be nicer to me." Grabbed the bottle offered and walked off. Not long after, I'm walking behind her in the walkway, and without realizing I'm there, she says to herself mockingly, "I'm going to need you to be nicer." Later in the evening, as I'm holding a very heavy tray, she holds the door open for me, and as I'm rather focused, I didn't think to say thank you. She very loudly goes, "Uh-huh, you're welcome." Just kinda dumb rude stuff. A 55-year-old woman working customer service should have more tact. At this point, I'm kinda just like, what do I have to lose? I've worked here for 7 days. I got the manager Ashley alone and pulled a very innocent, "Hey, I hate to be this person, but Linda has been being really harsh to me, and it's gotten bad enough that I have Jen and Kathy both coming up to me saying that they aren't okay with how she's speaking to me." Ashley said that she's seen it herself a bit, and that she would mention it without mentioning I brought it up, and told me that they really like having me there and not to worry about it. About 10 minutes later, I see and vaguely hear Linda saying things about my service, work ethic, and making a bunch of her like, "you see" gestures. I rung in a drink to go back to the bar to be annoying and noisy, basically, and Linda shut it pretty quickly. The night goes on and closing time is afoot. Linda keeps repeatedly asking if I've printed my revenue yet, and at first I couldn't understand why. As soon as I printed out my report, she circles my total beer sales, total wine glass sales, and total wine bottle sales, and tells me that those are the numbers I should be using to calculate her payout, and tells me that those are the numbers I should be using to calculate her tip out. Keep in mind, I went out of my way to sell bottles of wine so I could avoid using her service, and sold $200 worth of just wine bottles, which was half my total sales on this slow night. I ended up with a crap section filled with just friends of a local band that was singing. They all shared bottles of wine and apps. I'll add, I'm new enough that asking how to do tip outs based on total drink sales was really reasonable, especially as it's not restaurant policy. I grabbed my reports, all of my tips, walked up to the manager to turn in my cash for the night, and in the most innocent voice I could muster up, "Ma'am, what would the proper tip to bar be based on my total drink sales?" Honestly, on a night like tonight, you don't even need to tip the bar. We all just kinda helped each other out all night. You got some of your own drinks. "Oh, well, Linda said I need to be calculating her tip based on my total drink sales." "Well, no one would expect you to tip based on your full bottles of wine." "Oh, I think she expects me to. Could you just tell me how much you think I should tip her out, so I know I didn't do it incorrectly?" Does some quick math. Based on your beer and wine glass sales, 5% of total sales would be $6. Thanks. I grabbed out $6, placed it on the bar, and without saying anything to Linda, walked into the dish pit / back room to finish my drink. I hear Linda stomping around and approach the manager with attitude. She goes, "She just completely stiffed me on a tip." "No, she didn't. I calculated how much I should have been tipped based on her revenue report. She completely stiffed me and walked out." I also just calculated how much she should have been tipping you, except I figured it should have been 0. The way you're acting is completely unprofessional. You shouldn't be calculating anything on anyone's revenue reports. We aren't going to schedule you for the next week. After that, we can see if you can play nice with coworkers. I left my drink at Dish and headed out the back to avoid confrontation, but had the pleasure of seeing Linda stomp to her car in a hissy fit. Never have I ever seen karma act so swiftly in my favor. Never have I ever had such a random idea go so well. Everything just kinda lined up in my favor. If I hadn't been able to push the full bottles of wine, the disagreement over whether or not I needed to tip out on bottles wouldn't have happened. If those customers had called any later, Carly would have had the meeting where she told me I was on thin ice, like Jen due to Linda's complaint. Instead, I kinda just cast reflect, but I look innocent and spooked. It just felt nice, wanted to share, thanks for reading. Linda literally got exactly what she asked for. She wanted a tip, so she got the tip. But it's only $6. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, smash that like button as it would really help me out. Subscribe to my channel so you can stay up to date with my latest videos. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.